Hello, it's Phillip Taylor from Richmond Green Chambers speaking. I've got an interesting book here which I've had previous editions of before. It's the EC Competition Law Handbook, 2008-2009 edition. Comes out regularly, and obviously it's got a great deal of detail in it. It's from Sweet and Maxwell. This is actually the book itself. It's got 600 pages. There's an interesting statement at the back about the book, and you can see from the colour on the side that it's split into various main sections. The first section being cases, book 1, and various other bits to do with the cases themselves. Part 2, book 2, is in fact what it's called. It's about mergers and jurisdiction and so on. And then the third part is a whole list of judgments and a lot of data, huge amount of data. It's quite a light book. A lot of people involved in it as editors: Nicholas Charbit, Thomas Chellingsworth, Kyriakos Fountoukakos, I think that's how he pronounces his name, Jyoti Mulder, and Ryan Wessling. Now obviously you've got a substantial, you've got all nice sort of flags of the nations involved, member states involved. But here you've got a huge wealth of detail. This is very much a Euro document, frankly, but it's important. Now what I've done, because obviously I've seen this book around, and I use it occasionally for reference, I've given it, obviously you've got a picture of it from Flickr, and I've given it a little reference, and it's on the internet mainly as my reference. And I've given it the title, The Inside Track on EC Competition Law. Now for ease of purpose I'm talking about calling it the European Community, because obviously that's what it started off as, even though we're talking in my view now about the European Union. I'll come on to that in a minute because it's a bit confusing for some people. What I'm basically saying about this book is that if you need to strengthen your case on EC competition law, this is the material you really need to go to. As and when you do, obviously, need to strengthen your sort of work, if you're involved, for instance, in any aspect of antitrust work pertaining to the European Union, what was the old community, this handbook is in fact for you. Although the term handbook, you can see it's quite heavy, it's flexible because it's a paperback, it hardly does justice really to what actually this is, because it's a collection of documents in my view. I haven't actually said that in the review, but that's really what it is. It adds weight to scholarship and painstaking research, which is clearly contained in this one volume. And it's no exaggeration to say that the handbook provides everything you need to know about competition law. So it's quite a long book. The table of contents over 30 pages, actually nearly 40 pages long, and the volume itself helps to provide you with the various information you need from the contents table, which you start off with, and then you've got the sort of user guide which develops for the whole volume itself. And as I've said, if you look at a lot of EU documents, certainly you get used to the way in which the whole thing is structured, because it's slightly different from the way we do things in English law. And it's as a convenience rather than a drawback that the book is in the sort of handbook form. But I think it does add to accessibility and ease of use the way it's actually structured. And you can see that from as I said, from the coloured codings at the beginning, and you've got obviously a very heavy table of contents. So you've really got to know your way around the book itself. And once you've done that, you're well away, because you will have actually mastered the book and how it's actually organised. It's certainly designed with the practitioner in mind, and organised therefore logically along those lines, with cross-referencing extensively to make it easier to identify cases, legislation and other documents which are relevant to competition law. Now obviously it's a complex area, I make no bones about that. I did this particular subject for my bar finals, and I found it very confusing, no question about it. I teach the subject, and it's just as confusing now as it was. But when you go through it logically, you have to put a lot of effort into it. Things begin to open up and explain themselves a bit. Now, in the words of the publishers, this new edition for 2008-9 details every single EC competition case, regulation, notice, judgment, and so on. And obviously the decisions in particular, which are at the back, this is this bit, all this lot here, is very, very important too. It gives extensive coverage of the important national cases from the 27 member states. As background, I think it's helpful to read some of the comments in the preface to this work, which point out, to cite just one example, that approximately 220 agreements are notified to the Commission each year, referring, I believe, to the right to file complaints regarding restrictive practices, that type of thing, for instance. So if you're a layman, you might be confounded a bit by the title, which refers to EC rather than EU, and I mentioned this earlier on. Obviously we thought European Union had replaced EC, but you will find that the old EC term is still used, obviously, quite a lot, and it will take some time to standardise. So don't worry about that. Obviously it's a matter of opinion to whether this is merely just quibbling or not. Either way, the weight and meticulous nature of and accuracy of the research in this book and the information it contains makes it very practical as a handbook, and I certainly think it's invaluable as a sort of reference book for the sort of documents that you're looking for, and certainly I think it's indispensable for professionals specialising in this particular area. Remember that the handbook's updated every year, and if you practice in this field you really can't be afforded to be without the latest edition. And obviously you've got further information from Sweet and Maxwell. So there it is. Thank you very much. Bye bye.